I'm going to discuss today how to take Safari C3 and make a CallP trace for individual subscriber lines. Used to be in previous releases prior to 8.0 that we would have to go into call processing and we would select fields where we would select lowercase d when we would put it into cproc_dbg, and that would help us set the trace flags. But in this particular case, when we went over to software releases after 8.x, that we have a new program that's available, which is actually CallP_trace_dbg. So in this particular line right here, I'm actually looking at a subscriber test line that we're going to be using 701.200.0000, where we'll get a line ID that'll help us later on as we identify lines in the trace. So now we've exited here, and we're going to go ahead and go into the CallP trace debug, and we're going to see a menu that's presenting itself. Here's our menu here, and you can see as I highlight this particular line where we can actually do a per line trace, where we just put in a command string here at the bottom, putting in the capital I, then the actual DN we want to trace, and then we're going to use the digit 1 in order to set that trace. After I've entered that, you can see up here that if I highlight it, that we've got the trace flag set, just to make sure. Next, we're going to select whether we're going to do a basic call trace or whether we're going to specify zones or features. Zones being different types of trace information which appears in the trace, or if we're specifying features, the different features that can be enabled by various subscriber lines. I'm going to put a couple of screenshots of that at the very end of this video so that you can take a look and see what those are. And in there you can see just for the uppercase A that we confirmed that all of the features are on. Now we get down to take a look here where we can once again verify with the uppercase J which DNs we're actually tracing, and you can see here we can confirm that per line trace is set. Next, we'll take a look at the actual trace particulars. When we go to make the trace, we're going to have to quit out of here, and then from there we're just going to put in the typical command string tracetail -I CallP, and then just a return. Now in this particular case, at this point you will be actually making your test calls or having a subscriber making the test calls and then monitoring the output, which we're not going to look at here. In order to stop the tracing, we would hit Control-C, and in order to ensure that we're not having any extra CPU cycles being used on the processor to degrade any performance, we're going to head and turn that off. And we'll go in back in here, and we're going to disable the traces. Putting in that capital D, you'll notice it's going from current zone list setting all to current zone list and feature list setting none, so that's taking any load off of our CPU after we made traces. And then you can take the next step, you can actually take that per line trace out using the same command that we did before with the uppercase I, then the DN, and then the 0 after that, and that will turn off all the traces. So we'll do that here. And as you can see, if I do that I there, you'll see that it confirms that that trace flag is set to 0. And just to make sure, if I put that uppercase J in, you'll notice that there's nothing after it now. Completely empty, so none of the traces are back on. So at this point, we're ready to get out of the second CPM, and then we'll actually take a look at our traces that we've accumulated and then do an analysis from there. Here are the two screenshots using the help space FEAT in order to show the various features that the subscriber can be tracing, and then the help space zone, which shows the zones that can be captured by the trace.